Hey, what's up, everybody? We have a wonderful, amazing evening planned ahead. We have a special debate planned for tonight. Walker Tactical. We have Patriot Defense and American Patriot Defense, Walker Tactical, and Citizen Defense. If you guys want to go ahead and kick it off with a little introduction, and we'll go from there.
Who's going first?
Rock, paper, scissors.
I'll go first. So I'm Clint. I'm the we'll call the lead firearm instructor, the only firearm instructor for American Patriot Defense. My wife's the owner of the company, just to have a separation there and to be a little bit the smart person because I don't need to be in charge of everything. So, but a little bit about me: retired Army. Combined active duty and National Guard. Most of that time, I was either deployed or in a training unit, and current law enforcement, and I'm in a training unit inside law enforcement as well. Current in patrol as well. My specialty is red dots and small arms for the most part. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. We've had Walker Tactical and Citizen Defense on before, but please reintroduce yourselves.
So my name is Todd Springer. I am the owner and lead instructor of Citizen Defense Firearms Training based out of Texas, specifically College Station, Texas. I have no affiliation with Texas A&M, so please don't hold that against me if you're into college football. I am just I have no law enforcement experience. I have no military experience. I am just a normal guy that had some unfortunate circumstances that I found myself in and realized that I didn't know what I thought I knew and started training seriously. Was coaching some friends and colleagues and kind of brought to my attention that, hey, have you ever thought about teaching? And here I am.
All right. Awesome. And the man who needs no introduction, right? He was just on last week.
My name is Lewis Walker. I'm the owner and lead instructor for Walker Tactical, based out of South Jersey. I'm big into concealed carry now that my state allows that. So that's probably my top instruction that I got going on right now. But I'm glad to be back, and I'm looking forward to discussing all this optics stuff.
All right. Hey, well, thank you guys so much for the introductions. Well, pretty much the floor is yours. So whoever wants to pick the first topic, you can go at it and then see where the conversation goes from there. So any takers?
So I can I'll kind of go ahead and point the direction and where we were going to go on the live discussion before we ended up here. On the last podcast, when y'all had Walker on, y'all got to talking about optics and red dots, and that's something that I put a lot of time behind. And there were some statements that he said that I and some other people in the comments as well didn't quite agree with or align with on our methodology for how we should be approaching training for red dots. And the one thing that I think really got the most attention was when Walker was talking about using he advocates for the larger reticle, like the 32 MOA reticle on the hollow sun optics, as a way for shooters to find their dots, specifically in a high stress situation. Now, I had commented on there, why not just teach people the proper way of, to index, getting a good presentation to where that they can find that dot every time instead of relying on the reticle to find it. And correct me if I'm wrong on this. Walker said that he believed that was an advantage for students. And in my experience, to me, looking for using a larger reticle to find a smaller reticle is a crutch, because at that point, that tells me that you're not target focused, you're looking at the dot. And so if we're not teaching people to be target focused, then we're not using the dot to its full potential. And we're not teaching people how to be able to train and develop this on their own. Because kind of one of I'm going to butcher this phrase, right? Or this quote, I'm going to butcher this. It's probably a military phrase, and I hate using military phrases, right? Like all this slow, smooth, fast kind of stuff. Like I don't like that. But this one always kind of resonates in the term of training. Like you never rise to the occasion, you rise to, or you sink to your lowest level of training. And so if their lowest level of training is trying to find the dot instead of having a consistent presentation every single time, then in my experience, we're not helping them in a life-threatening situation. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, essentially, if we're doing that, we're taking them going back to being front sight focused. If we're having them search for the dot, the benefit of the dot is to be threat focused entirely. Your dot is only your confirmation of your, essentially, all your natural sighting picture, where with your fundamentals, your grip's key. If your grip's off, you're not going to see the dot. I think we could all agree on that. So if we have just a singular dot and we use that singular dot to our advantage, with a proper grip, and we remain target focused, the dot is just confirming that things are good. That's all it is. So we have essentially three different types of sighting solutions we have with the red dot. We have a gross sight picture, we have a controlled streak, and we have a violent streak. All right. So our gross sight pictures, when we have those up close engagements, so I like to call them bad breath engagements at 3 yard and in, meaning I'm drawn from appendix, and I've got center of man shots. I'm not really even looking for the dot. I'm looking for the back plate of that gun, or I'm looking for the shroud of that optic, and I am violently slapping that trigger, looking for effective rounds in a effective location on that target. All right, so I'm using the dot, shroud, or the gun as my sighting solution. And then as I move back further in my engagement area, and this is I'm going to give credit where credit's due. I learned this in Scott Jawinski's classes, Modern Samurai Project. This is part of Fitt's Law. Okay, so if you do a Wikipedia search and look up Fitt's Law, read the first 4 or 5 paragraphs. That's about all you need to read about it. Okay, basically, it's the engagement of a target based on the difficulty of target, and that's basically what it is. But if we move back a little bit, then we have to change some stuff a little bit. So when we change that, then we're going to go to a controlled streak with a controlled slap of that trigger. Okay, and we can get into some trigger control methods here in a little bit. But when I say controlled slap, basically I'm taking I'm not prepping the trigger. I'm not taking the slack out and doing a controlled prep. I am ensuring that I'm having a good north-south streak of the dot, a good north-south line of the dot. If the dot is doing something weird, I know what's off. My grip is off. Okay, something's wrong with my grip. If my grip is on, the dot should be doing up and down. That's all it should be doing. But when I have that longer engagement, we'll say 7-10 yards, and I'm shooting in nipple to nipple 8-inch circle, which is that acceptable area. Okay, if I see that dot fire, dot fire, dot fire, dot fire, that's all I need for my confirmation for that engagement for a controlled streak. Okay, so a violent streak we've already talked about, or a gross sight picture. And then we go down to a prep. So now I've got a prep 25-yard headshot. Now I need a static dot. I need a dot that's going to be completely still, but I still need to remain target focused. So I'm still looking at that head. I see the dot on the head, fire, fire, fire. So I remove the slack from the trigger, fire, slack from the trigger, fire. So that's how we can use the dot to our advantage while remaining target focus, is using the streaks and the static, a static dot, a control streak, violent streak, or a gross sight picture.
Okay. Yeah. So there was, I think what my statement there was a good opening for the conversation. Walker, what's your opinion of where I started from?
All right. So
and input that Clint has as well. Sorry.
Sure. So, listen. I'm not saying what your guys is saying is incorrect at all. I do believe that you get more precise shots on a singular dot rather than a larger optic. However, when you're shooting at a closer range, and again, the majority of the citizens that carry are not. I mean, okay, so Clint, you said you were former Army, retired Army, National Guard, and law enforcement, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a lot of training and a lot of trigger time.
Mm-hmm.
You are way above the average person. So
I agree, but I get normal Joe Schmo that comes to one of my red dot classes, and within 500 rounds, I've got them using a singular dot, engaging headshots at 25 meters with just a single dot. Now,
and that's awesome. On a range without any other environmental things going on around you, without any internal things going on inside them, they're on a range, on a one-way range. So that's what I mean when you're talking about, like you said it, your grip is everything. So if you fumble the grip drawing from concealment because you got in my state, you got your concealed carry, have been to the range 2 times that year, hardly there's just so we're clear, in my state, there's almost no ranges that you are allowed to draw at all. They don't let you at most of these places. So you can't. So the only place you're practicing your draw is at home. So and that's a very controlled environment. There's not even a bang going off when you draw and pull that trigger. So and listen, I like dry fire, and I think it's a great tool to be able to get that muscle memory, to get that press out the way you want it, to practice that draw, to practice your reloads. But if you're using that in an environment, right, where let's say you got wounded, let's say it was a knife wound or whatever, you were able to back up enough to pull out. Now it's a person who shot 2 times that year trying to find their dot on a fumbled grip with one hand. You know what I mean? I feel like it gives that person an opportunity to at least find the edge of where they are, because again, they don't have a lot of trigger time. They don't get that kind of training on a regular basis. That was the point that I was making with the larger optics. I think that target shooting, maybe even like I said, competition shooting, where you got an outside the waistband holster, you're drawing and pressing, and you're going and going and going. I really like for my bullseye shooting. I do the same thing. I'll use a Leupold Delta Point Pro. It's a fantastic optic. I like it a lot. But if you see the corner if you pull up and you don't have that grip just right, and you see the corner of that optic, of that reticle, and you can adjust and move it inward, and you can get a single shot off to get away from that threat or get that threat away from you, I think there's something to be said about it, and I don't think it's just me. I think that there's plenty of optics manufacturers that feels the same way. That's why they make them that way.
So I will say that when it comes to talking about them being able to find it, first thing, when you were talking about it on the last podcast, you were referring to it as coming up with freehand, being able to get two hands on the gun.
Well, it's just any advantage.
And the extreme now is one hand, and I just want to clarify that. And why, yes,
Okay.
if somebody doesn't have one-handed shooting, yeah, it's going to be more difficult doing it. Probably finding your dot with one-handed shooting, but overall, it even if they've been doing it for 2 days, if we're not like,
and listen, I get what you guys are saying about
bad, right? Like if you can't present the site consistently and precisely in a controlled environment, regardless of if you have a ring, what the hell makes you think that you're going to be able to do it when your heart's jumping out, when you have an adrenaline dump, right? And I've been in a couple situations where I've had an adrenaline dump, and I can tell you off the bat, the last thing I was thinking about is if I'm going to have a ring to be able to find my dot, if I'm going to be able to find my dot, because everything that I'm doing with running the gun is just running in the background, right? I'm worried about what is that guy's hands doing? What is this person going to approach me with, right? If the time comes that I need to present and shoot, the last thing I'm worried about is looking for the dot, because I'm looking at that guy, which means I am target focused, which means I'm doing exactly what I need to do with the red dot. And if my presentation and my index is proper where it needs to be, the dot's just going to appear, and I'm going to press the trigger when I need to press the trigger.
Yeah. And that's what Aaron Corwin's white paper study really emphasizes on. If you haven't read it, it's a really good, well, I wouldn't say it's a really good read. It's a really educational read. It's a really good educational read, and it's updated quite a bit constantly. And he updates it with current police shootings constantly. And I hate to say it, but that's where a lot of our data comes from, is law enforcement shootings. Because your average citizen typically doesn't get as many shootings as law enforcement do. But just like he was saying, since the defense was saying, that's what he's right on it. That's the whole point of the red dot, is to remain target focused, and that's why we go to that range for that single day or those 2 days, or we go however many you can. Is you take that class for that day. In my curriculum, in my class, when I build my class, their draw cycles, they're out of the holster in a day no less than 300 to 400 times. That's their draw cycle out of their holsters. So they're getting good. They should be getting good presentations roughly around that time frame. So it's not enough to be, permanent, but they're building a good base for that muscle memory. I don't like that term, but they're building a good base for that muscle memory. To build that I can file. I can do this. And when we are faced under stress, that's what our brain associates, because our brain doesn't really associate stress and not stress. It just says, I've recognized this and I've done this before. Oh crap, I haven't done this before. That's why we do stuff in training. That's why when you're I'm assuming we have veterans in this podcast. That's why you did your PCCs, PCIs. That's why you did your battle drills and you did your rehearsals, is because you said, okay, you didn't do you didn't do battle drill 1 the first time you got into the tick. You did battle drill 1 about a blue million times before your mob up, and then when you got into your tick, you did your distance directions, and you did your D's, and then you reacted, and then it was over, and you're like, oh, okay, that's how that's done. So that's no different than a civilian training. We train the civilians the same way that we were taught, in a lighter sense, in a less sense. We obviously, they're paying us.
It's a way lesser sense.
It's a lesser sense. Yeah, they're paying us.
It's a pretty lesser sense. like I said, so in New Jersey, the gun laws are so strict. Like I'm still telling. I just told a guy this week that the Supreme Court passed it 2 years ago that you could carry in the state. There's still not. It's the information is slow to get out still. So
Right.
these people, they buy a gun and then they put it away. Then they hear that, oh, I could conceal carry. That would make me feel a lot safer. And
Brother, it's not just a New Jersey thing; it's a Kentucky thing. I got people in Kentucky, and it's. I mean, you buy a bottle of whiskey, you get a gun. Essentially, I mean,
Dude,
here in
I-
see,
Kentucky,
here, that's what I'm saying. Here, it's a total nightmare to get a gun here.
yeah, it's
And
I
that's
couldn't
why.
tell you,
And then
I couldn't tell you what the Texas LTC, and I say this because I was in this camp at one point in time. Like guys will like the Texas license to carry qualification is literally a sobriety test.
it's a
Okay,
joke.
it's literally a sobriety
it's
test.
a joke in
And,
Kentucky.
and guys will pass that at a high level and brag about it. Like it really means something, you know.
We've had
But that's what they think, right? They get that license and they get that card. I passed it at a high level, and I think this means that I know what I can do or that I can handle myself. And because I was in that same camp early on and I thought that same way, I realized that I didn't know shit, man. And I still don't claim to know everything by any means, right? Like there's still so much to learn. But yeah, I mean, looking back 10, 15 years ago, yeah, I thought I knew something and I didn't know anything. So, but yeah, I sympathize with that, right? Like there are a lot of people that go and buy a gun, they get their license, and then they go and throw it in the sock drawer, and that's where they leave it. I mean, that's a real thing that happens.
And I was I was the multi-reticle system on the Holosons and whatever. I was big on the 32 MOA, the dot and the circle at first. I was like, oh wow, this is great. And then what I noticed very quickly I can't give you a time frame. That shit got in the way. I was like, this because I came from a world of EOTech. I ran EOTech for the longest time on my M4.
M4,
yeah. I ran an EOTech. I was like, man, this is like riding a bike. This is home. Here's the difference though. That reticle and the EOTech reticle do different things. They are not the same. They look similar. It's like my ex-girlfriend, but they're different.
Yeah.
They're really different. The EOTech reticle, you got your point of aim, you got your 50-yard zero, and it's good at 200, and then your first hash mark at the bottom is your 300-yard hold.
Yeah.
On the 32 MOA dot, that 32 MOA circle means jack and shit really, because at 25 yards, you know what the hold is different. The different hold at 20. We'll call it the zero difference between 15 and 25 yards. What the hold is different.
I'm sorry. At what distance?
So if I zero at 15 yards, but I need to take a 25-yard shot, what the hold is, about a 9mm bullet.
Well, when I shoot, the difference between 15 and I'm so if I'm shooting center mass, I'm aiming at the head when I'm shooting center mass from 15 to 25.
At 25 yards.
25 yards.
So if you're aiming center mass at the chest, you're aiming at the head at 25 yards.
Yeah, when I'm shooting out at 25 yards, if I shoot at the head, if I shoot I zero mine to 25 yards. So usually I'm right on, and when I'm closer up at 15 yards, it's pretty much still wherever I point, I'm on.
So if you zero at 15 yards, the difference is at most ammunition is about a 1/8 of an inch zero shift.
Okay.
From a 15-yard zero to a 25-yard zero is about 1/8 of an inch. That's about the difference.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So at 10 to 25, it's about the same.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's about 1/8 of an inch. So that circle for our engagements in a that circle in our engagements in self-defense shootings really means jack and shit to us. What really means to us is threat focus, good presentation. My dot confirms that my presentation's good. That's all it matters. That's all I need to know. If I'm looking at anything other than my presentation, I'm wasting time.
Yeah.
Because if I've got a 2-second problem, I should have had the gun out in a second and a half.
Yeah.
Okay. So
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. So I was just going to say, so when I give a 6-hour concealed carry course,
Mhm.
the majority of it is just going through the laws. The laws in New Jersey are designed to fuck you hard.
So this is, and when you say a concealed carry course, you're talking about the state required concealed carry course for license.
So yeah, so that's use of force in New Jersey. It's just basic fire NRA, basic safety, storage, cleaning. We go through all that stuff. But then I go through the retreat rule in New Jersey. I go through how to proceed throughout the, when you're out and about with your concealed carry, what you legally can and cannot do. So shooting somebody at 25 yards is going to be pretty unlikely in a situation like that, because if I'm carrying a firearm legally, if I walk, I always do this in my class. I use the Walmart scenario. If I walk into a Walmart, I'm concealed carrying, and there's a guy who starts shooting in the middle of the Walmart. Under New Jersey law, I'm supposed to retreat and leave. That's the law here. It's a really ridiculous thing that they have here, but that's the way they do it. They try to do anything they can to fuck the law-abiding citizen that goes through the process and carries the gun legally and does what they think they should be doing. They try to hurt you. They'll prosecute you on a vigilante, like they want to eliminate any thought of vigilantism.
So real quick on the, I want to ask a question on the New Jersey concealed carry licensing course that you have to go through. Is it a dedicated verbatim curriculum that you have to teach, or is it your own curriculum and you just have to include laws and use of force and stuff like that?
So the NRA has a curriculum that you teach, and that is paired with the laws that they don't even, it's not even like when you're an instructor, they'll send you anything that that you should be teaching. It's posted, and it's up to you to figure out what it is to teach.
So you don't have a state curriculum for your concealed carry.
No.
So the NRA class that you have to teach for paired with that, which NRA curriculum is it?
So there is a concealed carry NRA curriculum, and then there's also, so in order to be an instructor, you need the what's it called? There's
the NRA CCW class.
There is an NRA CCW class.
So you guys don't have anything like this. Like this is Kentucky. Like every student gets this.
No. The new when they allowed concealed carry in New Jersey, the most important thing that New Jersey, Phil Murphy's top priority, was to figure out how to not allow you to carry anywhere. So in the very beginning, for the first year that it was legal, they had a set of rules that you had to follow for distances and how to shoot. And then 3 months later, they changed it, and everything that you took before was null and void. So you had to retake it. Then in 6 months, they changed it again. You had to retake it all over again. They still haven't put out anything that is verbatim. This is what you need to teach. A listing from New Jersey of what you're supposed to teach.
So the reason that I was asking that, because I'm just trying to figure out which curriculum, what your curriculum is that you're teaching. Are you teaching are you training other concepts of shooting or methodology training, or is it solely the state license?
So in that concealed carry course, it is like I said, it's always treat a firearm like it's loaded. It's like the normal range safety things that you would teach. right? And then it talks about storage in the home. I actually added in the castle doctrine so that people understand what they can and can't do within reason of protecting their own home. And then we go through how the state views the retreat rule and how it works in New Jersey as far as what you can do with concealed carry. And so, like I said, if you're shooting somebody at 25 yards or even 20 yards, maybe even 15 yards, there's a good possibility you're going to prison. So
you're not teaching a red dot specific curriculum.
No, because you can carry whatever you want. So when I go through the concealed carry course, I go through what you can and can't do, and then we just go through. We practice drawing from a holster, pressing out, finding your sight, moving on to your trigger, squeezing back. Because then it's not really a shooting class; it's a shooting test. Because then we go into the actual course of fire, which is 3, 5, 7, 10, 15, 10 rounds at each. You can miss up to 10 rounds. So it's a 50-round course or a 50-round qualifier on a Q-style target.
Yeah. So, and not to try to push you away from anything of what you're doing or whatnot, but that's like the laws and stuff for New Jersey. Like I get it. You have things that you're having to abide by, but I in this conversation, I'm really not too worried about New Jersey use of force laws. I'm more interested in like your shooting curriculum, right? So what are like in like you said, you have to pair the shooting, the licensing process with the CCW course. Do you have to follow that? Are you following that NRA CCW course of fire or curriculum like to the T, to the NRA standards, or are you deviating from that and doing it on your own?
So it's kind of like I take the NRA's setup and then I add in the laws.
Okay.
So I'm using the NRA's.
You're teaching NRA curriculum paired with the state
Correct.
requirements for the laws. Okay. We got to that now because I did. So I have a couple of NRA certs. I did it mostly because their NRA is recognized in all 50 states. I might not always be in Texas, and majority of the time in all 50 states, NRA is required for the state licensing process. That's the only reason that why I went with NRA.
Yeah.
I don't know what other training you have. I do want to kind of get into that as well when we get a little bit here in this conversation. But I did the NRA basic and then the NRA CCW instructor. And I will tell you the NRA CCW instructor class, which it very much depends on the people that are teaching that stuff, was an absolute joke. I kid you not, when I'm giving more useful information to the instructors in that class because they have questions that they can't answer, that tells me how detached the NRA curriculum and how updated it is from where we are now in the shooting space and the shooting sports. Now, that necessarily isn't on you, right? If you're required to teach NRA curriculum, I get that. I understand that point. But when it comes to the concepts that you have of the red dot, of using a 32 MO, using the rings to find the center dot, and I'm kind of backtracking here. Where did you come up with, did you establish that? Was that on your own, or
that was on my own? So when I'm at the range and I've practiced, like I said, finding the dots, not a big deal for me because I have a lot of trigger time. I've spent a lot of time at the range practicing, and I've spent a lot of time in competition and stuff like that. But
hold on, right there. I got to ask you on that one there. When you say competition,
I'm not talking USPSA. I'm not talking about any kind of national competitions. I do local bullseye shooting competition. That's how I shoot.
Okay, and national competition doesn't matter, and I'm not worried about that. Like most of my stuff, the only thing I've competed in is local matches and one level 2 match that in a state match, right? Like that's it. And I have nothing to brag about with anything about that. But I think in the shooting community now, when you say competition, it is very much, especially when you're talking about defensive handgun space, most people are going to assume that, hey, that's USPSA or IDPA. So that's why I wanted to make that clarification, right?
Like, I understand that.
USPSA, IDPA, or bullseye, like you said, that's the clarification that I'm looking for.
Yeah. So again, in New Jersey, we have in the entire state, there is one range that does USPSA in the entire state.
So I want to ask you this too. So because I was curious earlier, because I knew we were going to get into this conversation.
Yeah.
I looked up on Practice Score to see if there are any matches in New Jersey, because I know fuck all about the Northeast, right? And so it was like some abbreviation, some shooting club. FMJ. I just want to see if this is the same one that you're talking about.
I think it's called FMJ.
So
that range.
So I am over by it's called, it'll pull up, SJSC. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay. So it shows they are in New Jersey, and this is on Practice Score. They have 3-gun shoots. They have steel challenge. All those things involve with you being able to draw from the holster. So all these are these are matches that you can go to. While it looks like it is a gun club, a lot of gun clubs do this.
When they do matches, they let others shoot.
Right. They have their match that's open to the public. You just may not be able to go out there for your casual range day if you're not a member.
And
right?
I'm sorry, do you know where it's located in?
So let me see. So it's just north. It says Winslow Township. Does that connect?
Yeah.
With you?
Okay.
North of Vineland.
North of Vineland. Yep, Vineland. Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
So it's just around there. So I don't know how far you are from there or anything, but it does seem that regardless of the restrictions of ranges, now I will tell you, a lot of ranges will restrict, especially indoor ranges for sure. Being that y'all are in the cold, I'm sure y'all have a lot of indoor ranges, will restrict work from the holster due to liability issues, right? But being able to say that, hey, nobody has an opportunity to go do live fire working from the holster. Like I just looked up on Practice Score right here, and there's steel challenge matches, there's 3-gun matches, there's stuff like that happening in New Jersey. So that's kind of
what I said was there are not a lot of opportunity like that. There aren't. You picked one out of the whole state.
I mean, but they had 7 matches.
That's just what I'm getting at.
But they had 7 matches listed. 7 matches, not just one, 7.
But one range. That's what I was saying.
Thing.
There's one range that will do 7 matches. It's for the whole state. That's what I'm saying. So, but what I'm also saying is the typical pistol owner that is going for their concealed carry in New Jersey right now, they don't train like that. Not typically. It's just slowly starting here because it's been so restricted for so long. It's still very restricted here. But what going back to the reticle thing, like I was saying, a lot of these people who own these firearms that are now getting the ability to carry, maybe they'll train more so in the meantime, but they're still going to carry that gun. So if I was making a suggestion, and again, I feel like a lot of this falls on to personal preference, but if I'm making a suggestion to a fairly novice shooter who's just deciding to carry a firearm and going to use it for a defensive measure, I'm going to advocate for them to have the most advantage possible when getting into a threatened kind of situation. So if they pull up and they find more security and find him where that bullet's going to end up, because again, the liability in New Jersey is extremely high. you want to be able to find what you're looking at and then shoot it. You don't want to. I think all this looking for the dot. That's what you would end up with. I know there are people here that would sooner not pull the trigger because they can't find the dot. So that's just what I'm
yes,
getting at.
we
I'm
wouldn't
just saying
we wouldn't
in a
pull the
tactical
trigger.
situation, in a more tactical situation where you're trying to defend your life, I feel that being able to pull it up if you got a bad grip or whatever the case may be, find your point of aim quickly, and again, if you can see the edge of your reticle, it would pull you in faster so you can find it at least, and then pull the trigger to try and save your own life. I think would be more beneficial.
I got a question real quick, and as a member of the 2A Brother podcast, I'm remaining neutral on this. Okay, just a heads up there. But I understand what you're talking about earlier. Going back in the beginning of when we started the podcast earlier about real life situation scenarios and drawing from the holster and situations different. Have you ever suggested to your students, and I'd like to hear from all of you about this, about like I went on Amazon and I found the Mantis for like $150. I found something called the bullets for like $30 for dry firing, because I've seen a lot of people say dry fire is free, but you do have a lot of options out there for reactive feedback to practice that the concealed carry draw.
Yeah.
And to be
So
able to
the
improve your draw and to be able to get more proficient with it and get the muscle memory. Have you ever like suggested that to your students
if I show a pew pew on this, will this get demonetized or something?
on YouTube? Yeah. So we.
Okay. All right. So let me just remove this from here. I won't bring it into view. So I use this
or whatever you're using, instead of paying attention to what the sight is doing, what your hands are doing, the trigger press. Are you not isolated? Are you tensing your firing hand when you're shooting? So to me, the dry fire systems, you would be better off spending $50 in dry fire targets from Ben Stoker Pro Shop than going and buying a $300-400 Mantis dry firing system, in my opinion, because it's more about trying to isolate and replicate the deficiencies that we have on the range, recreate them in dry fire so that we can correct them, and then we confirm them in dry fire again, or in live fire when we go back to the range.
Yeah. So
That
this
makes
is
sense?
so for my PDP. Are we still paused on YouTube?
No, we're not paused on YouTube anymore.
Okay. So all right. So for my PDP,
Like I said, the other ones I found on there was because, like I said, Walker, you were talking about people that aren't familiar with shooting, people that got their pistol and just put it in a drawer. I was thinking of that as I agree with what y'all said about it. But not knowing what their hands are doing and just seeing something reactive with it, if you like have ever just suggested it. But I do agree with what y'all were saying about like with the people focus more on getting the dot on the target and not what they're doing, but just something to get more proficient with the draw. That's what I was trying to get with as to why I was asking about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that. Getting the reps in and taking the time, and just if you're trying to build speed, not working at 100%, there is definitely a sweet spot in there. I will offer it to the 2AB guys. I am actually working on a dry fire regimen that I'm going to offer for free. It's going to be nothing crazy. It's for people that want to take self-defense seriously and want to start working on performance and start developing performance. Once I get that set, I will be sure to send it out with y'all. And I want y'all to test it and tell me what y'all think. Okay. So I'll send that out to y'all since we're having this conversation. But when we come to, and we'll kind of go back from here because I feel like we kind of got off. And I used this term earlier, and Walker really liked it. When it comes to the average everyday earth person that is walking this earth, Are they going to train to the level of people that are as passionate or committed to it as we are as instructors? No, they're not. But my goal is when they come to class, I think of it as they already have their foot in the door, right? They've spent their hard-earned money. They've come to train with me. And so they're here because they're at that point, they're committed to it to some extent, right? So my goal is to give them the tools, not to just like typically nobody is really going to progress right there in the class, and that's going to be it, right? If you go to a good class, when you leave, you should have work to do. You should have work to do when you leave a class.
Yeah.
And everything that I do in my class, they can go and they can do it at the range. They can do it in an indoor range. They can dry fire at home. I incorporate so much dry fire into my classes. And I tell them every time we do something, I said, you notice everything that we're doing right now in dry fire? Yep, you can do that at home. Do this at home. So giving people like, yes, I get it. When you're first trying to find the dot and you might have an issue, like that reticle could help. But from my experience, because I can tell you without a doubt, I was very, very hesitant to go to a red dot. I was very, very hesitant to go to a red dot because I was proficient with irons and I didn't see a need to. If it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of mentality, right? And then I went over, and I am so happy that I transitioned. But I started with the same way, with the 32 MOA dot, and then or with the reticle that they have. And if you're trying to be target focused, you can't be target focused with that because that reticle is just drawing so much of your attention to that dot. It's very hard to come away from that. So when you go to a single dot, you have less of that obstruction. You can target focus, and the dot's pretty much over it. Now, if you want to advocate for a larger single dot, such as like a 5 MOA or a 6 MOA or something like that, that can easily be another option for people to have to easily find the dot. But the large obstructed EOTech type reticle stuff, I think it just makes the housing, the glass too busy for people, and they end up focusing on the reticle instead of focusing on the target. Whereas if we're trying to teach them how to find the dot, we should just teach them how to properly index or present the first time. So whenever I do that, I tell people, okay, present. All right. Do you see the dot? No. All right. Find the dot. They find the dot. Okay. Bring it in back to like a compressed ready and just compress it. They'll take a mental note of where that dot was presented. And then once that dot is presented, all they have to do is return to that same presentation every single time. Once you start doing that, it just becomes second nature. Then you incorporate it into the draw. Now we've started to develop consistency. Once we've developed consistency, now we can start developing efficiency, right? And we can start getting the dot on target faster and at a good, consistent, hard stop, to where as soon as we see color or a dot or a streak or whatever we need to do in relation to the size of the target and distance, we can press the trigger and we're not wasting time. So that's where I differ on the reticle side of the 32 MOA versus a single dot. I don't disagree that a larger dot, like I said, like a 5 or a 6 MOA, could be beneficial in that range. A lot of concealed carry options. I think like the Hollow Sun, is it the 407K? One of those, I think those come in a larger dot option. So that can be something dependent on the footprint that could be an option as well.
And there's a caveat too. Like, so there's stigmatisms. So I've got a couple of buddies that have stigmatisms.
I have a slight one.
Yeah. And like, so one of the guys likes a green dot, and that fixed with his stigmatism, that fixes. The other guy he's still experimenting to what dot he likes the best. So he's trying a larger MOA dot, and right now, until he gets his new SRO put on, actually I just traded him a SRO. I had a 5 MOA, or I think a 5 or 6, whatever the biggest MOA SRO was. I had that, and I traded him. But until then, he's using a 507 comp with the dot with the 8 MOA horseshoe reticle.
Oh, yeah.
So that is technically 2 reticles, but in his eyes, it is one.
Mhm.
It's just one blur in his eyes because of his stigmatism.
Mhm.
So
One blur.
so I told him, I was like, hey, I'm basically the same conversation. I was like, hey, I don't like, why are you doing that? And he's like, well, it only looks like one to me. So I'm like, oh, well, fair enough.
So I'm sorry, I'm laughing here at Pale Horse's comment 3 minutes ago. It says proper
Yes,
training
I saw
prevents
that.
piss
That
poor
was good.
for performance.
But and the other caveat I wanted to make is, once we understand what the dot's doing, the dot's only going to come from 2 locations, and it's based on your presentation. It's going to either rise from 6 or drop from 12. So it's going to rise from the 6 o'clock, or it's going to drop from 12 o'clock based on your presentation. Meaning, okay, this is a grip trainer. Okay, so it's fake.
You
All right.
fancy.
Yeah. So when it rises from 6, that means my muzzle's down, and I bring it up to my ocular view, or it's going to drop from 12, meaning my muzzle's up, and I'm bringing it down to my ocular view. Those are the only 2 directions the dot's going to come from. That's it. That is it. That's how simple it is. All right. So the only things that are different from that is what? Our grip.
Mhm.
That's it. So if you don't see the dot from either this position, we'll say easily from a low ready up, or from a high port or high ready up, is your grip. You need to adjust your grip. And typically what that is your support hands being a little bitch.
Mhm.
All right. That's typically what the issue is.
Just
All right.
backhand that fool. Like, you got to
All
get
right.
in line. Yeah,
Meaning that
support
support
hands.
hand needs to grip tighter.
Mhm.
And it's typically with the pinky. All right. That's typically, if you're shooting a Glock, it's 100% the pinky. I would not 100%. I'm going to say 95.5%. It's probably your pinky pressure.
And I will say that typically when it comes to in students in my class, I've had ones that talking about support hand pressure, that I'll tell them like, hey, you should be crushing with your support hand.
Mhm.
And they're like, oh, okay, I get that. And then we start diagnosing some stuff, and they're like, I don't know what's going on. I'm doing what you tell them. And I ask them, are you crushing with your support hand? You're like, yeah. Stick my hand out, and I'll say, okay, squeeze my hand as hard as you are squeezing your gun. And they're squeezing it less than I would give someone a handshake.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, no, let me show you how you should. And now this is relative, dependent upon, size of person, grip strength, things like that, because all those things come into play. But regardless of that, you should be crushing with your support hand. And so I give them that example, and they're like, oh, I should be squeezing that hard. And it's like the light bulb kicks on.
Yeah.
And they start understanding that. And I will say, when it comes to dry fire, the biggest mistake I think people make in dry fire, because I made the same thing when I started too, is that they're not dry firing and gripping the gun in the manner that they would if they were under recoil at the live
Yeah.
range. So if you're dry firing properly, within probably the first 5 minutes, your support hand for sure should be gassed.
Yeah, I actually just not too long ago, me, Dimitri, and Rob had a class with Josh. I've seen him in the comments. Shout out to him. I actually didn't even realize that I had issues with my support hand until he pointed it out. And just spending a couple hours on the range with him really improved my my shooting. And and my draw and just being able to get on target. And I guess it shows, like you're talking, like just having, good instruction, good, like good abilities to teach and pay attention to what your students are doing really makes a difference. And like I said, just doing a couple hours on the range with him improved dramatically on how I react with my support hand.
Sorry, I got kicked there. I was trying to see where you guys are seeing these comments.
Yeah.
Do you have
They
Rumble
pop up
pulled
on the
or
side for
YouTube
me.
pulled up to the side? If you pull up Rumble or
Yeah, so going back to talking about Rip, so we've been on the dot for a little bit. We can move over to a little bit of other things. So I looked around. I very much have learned the hard way not to assume what people may or may not know. So if folks have open information available to the public, I try to go and snoop around and make sure that I know.
Stalker. He's a stalker.
Yeah. No, I just want to make sure that I'm not assuming anything incorrectly, right? So on your website, Walker, too, you have that you do other levels of training, right? So based on that, you do more than just the state required minimum, correct?
So so I stick mainly to the NRA curriculums because I'm an NRA instructor. That's what I am. Now the some of the things I offer, I do like a women's safety class because I try to do like a normal safety class for a reduced rate for women because I feel like it's really important that they learn how to operate their firearms. But and again, the state is so screwed up. So like, let's say you own a firearm, you have your firearms license, and your wife uses your firearm to defend herself because you weren't home. In New Jersey, it's a felony. Like they have just screwed up rules. So I try to just keep everybody as informed as possible, really, with basically how the rules are in New Jersey. That's what a lot of like the information that I put out is. Like that's what I try to put out, as much information as possible with New Jersey, because like I said, New Jersey is a very hard state to be a firearm owner in.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at some of them in the comments.
I can't read them. So
it was, yeah. So, and that's where I was curious. So out of, when it comes to, so somebody way early at the beginning talked about asking about credentials. So, and I'm just curious because on your site you had that you said you're an NRA instructor. So you've had, and I thought I saw you have like a lot of the NRA certs, like the
shotgun, rifle,
inside,
pistol,
outside of the home, all that stuff. Have you ever? So I'm not familiar. I know things differ from who people are aware of versus the North and the South.
So
like
the NRA certs that I have are basically, I just took the classes and I got the certs. My actual firearms training, where I actually learned how to shoot, were mainly from retired police officers. So and a lot of that stuff is, a lot of the stuff that they taught me was a lot of just more, trigger discipline, more iron sight style shooting, and then I started evolving into optics, and then I moved on from there. But yeah, I learned from a former Camden. He used to do all the training and testing for the Camden Police Department. A gentleman named Bill. He's a very nice guy. He's the one who got me my very first lessons into shooting, and then I moved on to this guy named Bob. Bob was a former police officer, and he owns his own firearm training outfit. And like I said, that's where I started doing the bullseye shooting, because at the range that I do, it's an indoor range where I compete more, and then it's, we don't really do a lot of holster drawing and moving and shooting and stuff like that. So that's where I ended up doing. And then I started, so because I was proficient in those types of areas. I got my certifications in shooting and in the training, the NRA training courses, because New Jersey basically only recognizes NRA as a way of instruction, and that's where I went.
Okay. And that's why I was curious, right? Because there's a gentleman that when I started my training journey, he's from Virginia. And he was, he went through, he thought, or well, I would say he thought, but at the time he's like, I want to go to the 6 Hour Academy, because at that time that was the pinnacle for what he was aware of. And he did pretty much everything that the 6 Hour Academy offers. And then there were guys that are more well renowned, like kind of more in the southern region down here. And he's like, everybody's, dropping their names. And he's like, I don't know who these people are. Right. And then he's finally come to know them. So that's why I ask, right? I'm not going to be unfair of who you may be aware of in the training space and who you may not be. When it comes to NRA curriculum, though, I will say while it is, I think the NRA curriculum still has its place. I do wish states would re-up on curriculum. I don't know how far he goes north, but I would highly recommend that you look into Tom Givens' Rangemaster Instructor Development course. Tom has been doing this for a very, very long time.
And I'm sorry, where's he based at?
So he lives in Florida now, but he travels.
Okay.
But he travels all over the country hosting his classes. So you can look up Tom Givens Rangemaster.
Yeah. And it's Givens.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And so Tom Givens has a lot of it's evidence-based curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
He is very straightforward, no bullshit individual. Over the course of his career, he has had over 74 individuals or 74 students involved in self-defense shootings. 72 of them have won. The one was, I think the other 3 were forfeits, meaning that they didn't have their gun on them. So he has had 72 students out of his 40, 50 years of training that have won gunfights. So he has a very dialed in curriculum, evidence-based curriculum. And I would highly, if you're going to continue the training journey, I highly recommend that you consider the Tom Givens, of course. Now he has a whole, it's kind of like the NRA stuff, right? Like you can go the instructor development course, the advanced, and then he has the shotgun stuff and all that stuff. If you want to get into, depends on how far you want to go. But then they also have he hosts the tactical conference that they have once a year. And they bring in top trainers like they've had Brian Hill, Scott Jedlinski has been there. They have I have yet to make it to the tactical conference because it typically sells out within the first, I want to say 24 hours that they go on sale. So it is a great networking opportunity as well. So yeah, that's another level of training. NRA stuff.
So just full transparency. I just passed 1 year. My business has been open for 1 year. I've only been instructing for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm very open to any kind of training that comes around. I'd be more than willing to learn more and more, and I got no problems with that.
If you could take Scott Jerwinski's instructor course,
and where's he at?
He travels.
So that's Modern Samurai Project.
Yeah, Modern Samurai Project.
Zelensky, he travels all over the country.
Yeah.
I have not trained with Scott Jedlinski.
I see Modern Samurai Project I've heard of.
Yeah, that's Scott. That's Scott.
Okay.
Yeah, but it like for instructor development stuff, Tom Givens stuff is really good curriculum. I will tell you, it is nowhere near like the NRA curriculum stuff. Tom Given's class has a 15% fail rate. So if you don't pass, you have to pay the whole sum to go back and take it again, right? There are no redos. So if you and I'm just giving you forewarning because nobody gave me forewarning, right?
Yeah.
If you decide to go that route, make sure that you're ready to buckle down and study, and you're going to have to do it because it's like a 3-day program and stuff like that. So I'll kind of segue.
I was going to ask you, have you seen any of the Tactical Hive programs that they put out?
So I've seen them market them.
Yeah.
I have never attended any of them.
Okay.
Mostly because like Tactical Hive, in my opinion, has kind of been like, they've been a source for like information, but they haven't really been out there like, hey, we're instructors and we do this stuff. They bring other outside sources in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I would say it's worth looking into, but I can highly recommend Tom Given's Range Master. But yeah, so there's one other thing that I definitely wanted to touch in, and this is kind of where I wanted to bring Clint in, because he probably, I would guess, has 99.9% more insight into this than I do. When we had the discussion of in the comment section of the podcast post on TikTok, you had said that, hey, I recommend this process for people that haven't had combat experience. And I had responded back with, do you have combat experience?
Yeah, which I do not.
I didn't mean that in like an asshole-ish way by any means. Like I was legitimately asking because I couldn't find anything else.
Yeah.
I can tell you 100%, I don't have combat experience.
Right? Yeah.
I'm not a law enforcement officer. I'm not military. I don't have anything like that. I've had like 2 very isolated incidents that I've been a part of, and none of my stuff that I teach is anywhere near related to any of that. So I'm just asking, right?
Yeah. So I do not have. I'm not military. I'm not a cop. I went to school to be a cop. I have a degree in it, like in criminal justice, but I don't. I've
never
never
have a degree in criminal justice. That's cool.
Yeah, I have a degree in criminal. And then when I graduated college, I went to go to the academy, and everybody was laying off cops, firemen at in my county in the city of Camden. They got rid of the entire police department. They put in the state police there. It was just a total mess. And that's when I started. I went into the heating and air conditioning field, but I've always liked marksmanship, and that's where my background is. I like bullseye shooting and stuff like that, and I just got proficient in it. But so when this whole thing started with this whole reticle thing that I was talking about, it's based off of what I've tried and done at the range, like just pulling up and shooting one-handed, seeing what I can see faster. If I had a bad grip, or if I had to adjust, or I had to do whatever, that's where I got the because, like I said, the majority of people that I talk to, that I've trained, I've at least taken my concealed carry course and gotten their concealed carry, they don't go to the range very often, and they don't. So, like I said, if they're going to use that firearm, I just wanted to give them the most possible advantage that they could possibly get, because the like I said, if you just grip it wrong and you can't find that dot, I don't want them start going around looking for it. You know what I mean? I would rather them just be able to catch an edge and then move toward the center. Like I said, and again, I understand that you guys don't feel the same way. It's like I said, this is just from my experimentation on the range and just seeing what I think works best.
Right.
Right.
And yeah, and I mean, it's not, I mean, like, I don't think, I will tell you right now, like with the discussion that we're having, like, I feel like this is a professional discussion, right? Like nobody's bagging on each other or anything like that, right?
No.
And it's, you know, when it comes to my thing was with the combat experience comment was that, you know, words mean things, and when it comes to combat experience, you know, I would say if you're telling that to students, students are going to take that as if like you have experienced combat. And
I'm sorry.
and I don't,
Did I say that? Did
you
I
did
say
not
that?
say that you say it to students, but if you're throwing it around, if you're saying it in the
Did I
comments,
say in the? That's what I was asking. Did I say in the podcast that I was in a combat experience?
no, but you said it in the comments.
What did I say?
I can try to pull it up. When you were talking about the reticle, you were saying that you can find it. I do this, or I tell people this, that ones that don't have combat experience because under duress and stuff like that. I can go back
Yeah,
and try to
so
find it.
okay, I wasn't saying that I have combat experience. I was saying that the people who I train that are newer to shooting that don't have combat experience, don't have a lot of trigger time, don't send a lot of ammunition downrange, don't practice a lot pulling and finding that dot. That's what I was talking about. So maybe when I said it, it came across wrong because like Clint, I'm sure, has no problem if he was ever involved in some kind of an altercation where he had to draw down. I'm sure his dot's not good. He's not going to look for it. You know what I mean? He has so much time on that gun, on his system, on the way that he shoots. But a person who doesn't have that much experience, that is new to carrying a gun or even using a gun in a defensive scenario, that's who I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the guy that comes and trains with Clint, you know, twice a month or even twice a quarter, right? You know what I mean? I'm talking about the person who's going to the range maybe once a year, that if they're planning on carrying a gun, that's who I'm talking about. I want them to be able to have the if you're training on a red dot all the time, then obviously that my statements don't really apply to you. And I'm talking about the people who are new to carrying and don't train a lot. That when if they're planning on carrying a gun and they're expecting to be able to defend themselves, if they pull up and again they fumble the draw or whatever, then they'll be able to at least locate on that reticle kind of where they are in space relative to where the
Yeah.
muzzle direction is going.
And I understand what you're getting at with that, but it still
Yeah.
comes back to the fundamental principles and concepts of that. If we're looking for the reticle, we're looking at the reticle. We're not target focused. Instead of giving, and I get it, right? Like you may not be able to make a student commit to a training regimen. I 100% get that, right? Because that is up to the individual. But at the same time, we should not limit ourselves as instructors to try, not push them to strive for better. Because, if they're choosing to carry a gun for self-defense, that's it. And as you know, and especially with, like you've stated, with New Jersey law, like that's a very, very heavy, weight on your back, especially if you fuck up.
Yeah, big time.
You're running your life, you're running your family's life, you're running the lives of other people. You're probably going to spend the rest of your life in jail. So my thing is yes, for the people that are probably not going to really, they may not pursue training as heavily as we are. That's the choice that they have to make for themselves. But we should give them the tools and the ability to, like, hey, because once they leave this class and they don't have my insight anymore, like, it is 100% on them. And I tell all my students, if you after this class, if you have any questions in relation to dry fire, live fire, issues that you're having, My phone is available 24/7. My email is available 24/7, and you can message me. Like I am here. Excuse me. I am doing this because I really want to create better shooters in the public, especially when
I
we
understand.
have lawns.
I think I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm on just the other side of it. Instead of limiting us as instructors, I don't want to limit them as not as trained as we all are, not as trained gun carrier. That's what I'm saying. Because like I said, they may not do a lot. They may not pursue that training, and that's what I feel. I feel like I would be doing them a disservice if I said, "Oh, well, listen, you can only do if you're going to carry an optic, it has to be a 3 MOA dot. You can't carry anything else because if you carry anything else, it's just wrong." See, I disagree with that. I think that if you are able to use an electronic optic like we all are using, that is able to aid you in finding where you're going with that muzzle, I think that you have a better shot at limiting the other side of that liability, like you were saying in New Jersey. I think that you'd be like I said, I think that
my thing is not necessarily on the tool. It's about the process of implementing the tool.
I understand.
Right? So and so if I would rather teach people how to consistently find the dot. And then whenever they go home, like, hey, this is how you can conduct dry fire in your home. It's very easy. If you're going to run a dot, this is the easiest way to find the dot. Once you start working from the holster, remember these movements, and then you can start adding speed, adding speed, adding speed. If you have a shot timer, you can work for a shot timer. If you don't, use the light switch on your wall. I don't give a shit, but do something. But at least we're giving them the tools and the ability to do it on their own instead of saying, because if we tell them, hey, if you have this larger reticle and if you can't find the dot, this larger reticle will find the dot, then that's all they're going to know. If we show them the process of how to do it,
yes,
then they can start to develop it on their own.
And I get what you're saying by saying it could be it's a crutch. It could be more of a crutch than not. And I think that's what I'm saying. Without training, you may need a crutch. If you don't actively pursue training, like you're saying, like again, like I said, I 100% agree. Everyone should train. If you're going to carry a gun, you should be training. But that's not really how it really works all the time. You know what I mean? So that's what I was saying. If you're going to use that tool the way that in order to defend your life, I don't feel that only saying that you could only have this kind of optic on there because that's the way it's supposed to be is the right way to go about it.
It's not the optic, right? It's just the reticle, right? But if we teach them to find it, they'll find it. If we teach them to develop it,
that's what I'm saying. If you teach them to find it, but that's what I'm saying. If they take your course and don't take another one for another year, but they carry the gun, then that muscle memory is not. Oh, I know you don't like that term, Clint. I'm sorry, but
don't offend Clint. How dare
sorry,
you?
Clint. Yeah, my bad, dude. So that's what I mean. That posture that you're going to create, where you can pull up and find that dot right away. It's not always going to be there if they're not always pursuing that training. That's what I was trying to get at before when I was talking about it. But versus, and again, even when they have just a normal,
but that's
dot, they took one of your classes.
That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to teach them the tools, get them the reps that you can, and then they have to take the personal responsibility to continue that training on their own and seek out new training. After that, you can't. If they don't come back to you, they don't come back to you. If they don't go to seek out new training, they don't seek out new training. It's the same thing in law enforcement. I got guys that I do open range. We were talking about this on the TikTok thing, on the TikTok live. I do an open range probably 9 to 10 months out of the year, and I open it up and I do it at different times. That way, I can accommodate each shift, and I do it on my days off. So I take out my time. Well, I get paid for it, but I take out my time I go get ammo from the arms room. I go out to the range, send out an email saying, hey, I'll be down at the range. If you guys want training, I'm down there, because we have set training days, and that's what we can do because of shift schedule. It's just what we can do. So to accommodate additional training, I take it upon myself to go out and offer additional training to the guys. I get maybe 20% turnout, maybe 20% turnout throughout the year. I can't force professional police officers to train more. I can't force them to do it.
Yeah.
I can force them to show up to the mandatory training because it's their job to show
Yeah,
up
exactly.
to that training. But outside of that, if they're not getting paid for it, I can't force them to show up. You can't force people to
pay to go get trained in order to.
But you can do your best by building those good reps and teaching them, hey, listen, the dot's either gonna rise from 6 or drop from 12. All right, here's how we build our good grip. Don't let your support hand be a little bitch. All right, we don't let our support hand be a little bitch by making sure that we incorporate our index finger and our pinky in our grip. Okay.
Last time I was on the 2A Brothers podcast, we were talking about T-shirts. If you don't make that a T-shirt, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Now, what if I'm
actually have that one?
What if I'm a little bitch by design? How do I fix that?
You can put that on a fucking T-shirt too, man.
I think that's a T-shirt too. A little bitch by design.
Yeah, like
actually. So I was driving home the other day. Sidebar. Sorry, ADHD's kicking in.
Don't let it happen again.
Sidebar. I was driving home the other day and I called my friend. And I said, hey, I got a T-shirt idea. I want a skeleton hand with a salt shaker. And on the salt shaker, it says TISM and it sprinkles. And on the plate, it just has a bunch of random shit. A sprinkle of the TISM.
The TISM. The TISM is strong with this one. Yeah. No, it's you can. Yeah, that's a good T-shirt.
So if I'm a little bitch by design, then I'm just fucked for shooting, right? Like I shouldn't even.
No, we can work on it.
Okay, all right.
I'm in Kentucky. Come on over.
Hey, don't tempt me with the good time. If you
so
can
I 100%.
I've got bourbon.
I 100% plan to try to meet up with Clint in person. So this is definitely a sidebar to the discussion that we're having. But my wife does a lot of work in thoroughbred horses, and so she spends some times in Lexington. So if I can time it next time and I can come up there, Clint, we're going to go and we're going to hit some bourbon. I'm a bourbon guy.
There's a great match. There's a great match in Wilmore, Kentucky. It's a Bluegrass Shooters Club. It's the first Sunday of every month.
Okay, it's just a local. It's not a major.
Yeah, it's a local match, level 1.
I can try to. I will definitely. Probably won't be till moving into next year. But if I can time that, and come up there, we'll spend some months, man. That'd be good.
I'm in Maryland. I'm not super far away. I'm down to come out and meet up.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm going for bourbon. Like I'm not going to shoot for Clint, with Clint, right? Like Clint's nice. He's the side piece, but I'm really going for the bourbon.
I'm down for the bourbon, but if he can backhand the bitch out of me, then I'm down for that too. You know.
I've done a lot of backhand in my day.
You got to keep them hoes in check, man.
Keep the pimp ham strong, baby. Keep the pimp ham strong.
You got to let them know who's in charge.
Yeah. So, for me. Honestly, I think we've kind of capped out on the discussion.
I agree.
I think this was good. It's discussions that I believe that need to be had. To a lot of people in the gun community, I think we definitely get too caught up on one side of the fence versus the other. I do believe that the competition space versus the self-defense space is merging more, but I do still think that there is a little bit of that division. Because if you go and look at especially body body camera footage of law enforcement officers and self-defense usage. Majority of the time, people are getting the gun out as quickly as they can, and they're pressing the trigger as quickly as they can to try to get more hits on target than that other person can get hits on target on them. But at the same time, while we're talking about training and instruction and things like that, unarmed or untrained people win fights all the time, right? So we have to take into account that human element and everything else that comes with it. But yeah, man, Walker, dude, it was I appreciate you coming on and having the conversation with you. I do wish you the best, like no ill will with you. If I'm ever in New Jersey, I will tell you, I'll hit you up and we can have a beer together sometime, man. Every once in a while. The first that I've been up north is we have some friends that live up in Boston. So that's about as far as I typically go. But if I do end up New Jersey, I'll keep you in my list. And
just so you know, there's no reciprocity here, and it's a 10+1 state.
Yeah. No, I will say so.
I've got a badge.
My wife
you're
travels. Yeah, my wife travels all the time for work, so she has it like planned out to a T. Like, hey, we get to the airport like an hour. She would lose her shit if I was trying to travel with my firearm, like with trying to check everything. She would lose it. So I don't even do it. But no, if I ever end up in New Jersey, dude, I would say
that I'm going to look up this guy, Tom Gibbons, and see when the next time he's around me. Cause like I said, I'll never oppose more training.
Yeah.
More training.
I don't know if he goes that far north. I know he goes into the Carolinas.
Okay.
You can definitely just look on rangemaster.com.
He typically stays out of the Northeast just because of gun laws.
I don't blame him. Honest to God, I don't blame him.
And
I got offered a job at SIG at one point.
Dude, nice.
As an instructor up there, but you have to relocate.
They're Connecticut, right?
Yeah, New Hampshire. Yeah, and I was like, no.
Yeah, the entire Northeast is just a shit show for gun laws.
I was like, can I be remote? And they're like, no, you have to move. You got to be home based. I was like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because that's the guy that I talked about that I started my training journey with, and I still in contact with him, right? Like I had a lawyer call me for like expert witness work one time, like out of the blue, and I'm like, I've never done expert witness work, right? And he's like, hey, we have this situation and the client got no billed, but we're trying to do this in civil court and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think I'm the right person for this. And I called and talked to him and he's like, yeah, I don't do any of that stuff with all the amount of training that I've done. But yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, he started the same way. Like he went through 6 Hour Academy, came down south, and he's like, because his family's down here. And his son that actually teaches with him is local law enforcement. So that's kind of cool. They have that nice dynamic.
Yeah.
And he was the same way. He's like, man, I've never heard of Tom Givens. Like, who the fuck is Tom Givens? And then he kind of found out, and he's like, Tom Givens has a great curriculum. I don't worship him the way that certain people do in the South. Yeah. But he does have a very good curriculum. He has very, very good evidence-based stuff. And like and he's the one that told me, he's like, if you're going to continue this, like you need to go take Tom Givens' class. So yeah. And it's just Rangemaster. It's just rangemaster.com.
And the other just to touch on the other reason why I go so in depth when I do my courses about what you can and can't do with your guns, as far as carrying goes, is so they have a lot of like safe places you're not allowed to carry, like sensitive areas you're not allowed to carry. But like I just had so in order to be an NRA instructor, you have to take the course with the NRA counselor. My counselor was just arrested for concealed carrying in his vehicle. I swear to God. Yeah. He was carrying in his own vehicle. He told him that he had a legal carry permit and a firearm, and he got arrested. And now he's suing the police department. So even the cops don't know really the laws yet. It's tough here.
Yeah, and that's the thing I will say with like Tom Gibbons, he condenses the self-defense laws in a way that's pretty much how you can approach it from all 50 states. Like if you abide by this, that falls under, legal use of force. Because even and this is me getting into the weeds here. Sorry, talking about stuff in Texas, right? The biggest thing the biggest question that I always have in Texas, because we have in the penal code, it says that you can use deadly force to protect property. So the first question I always get, and I swear to God, every other LTC instructor in Texas gets this too. So if I walk outside and somebody's breaking into my car, I can shoot them. And that's the first thing that they always get. And it's like, bro, no, use of force still applies. And the penal code kind of like the way they word it, it gives people the wrong impression. And when it comes to things like that, like ability, intent, imminent jeopardy and preclusion, all that stuff that has to be in place for justifiable use of deadly force. Tom Gibbons covers that stuff at like a condensed level. And it's like, hey, if you can process this, you can process legal use of force and you're good to go. So he does a good job of doing all that stuff.
But in Texas, you have the right to defend property, right?
Yes, we have the right to defend property, but still under the context of use of force, right? So I cannot escalate to a level of force higher than what I'm being met with. So if somebody's stealing my car and like say he breaks into my car and he's stealing my radio, I can't walk outside and shoot him because he's not a threat of serious bodily injury or harm, deadly force, right? If I walk outside and say, hey, crackhead, what are you doing in my car? Get out of my car. And the dude turns around and he has a knife or a weapon. Well, the context just changed, right?
Yeah.
So I can meet that force with force.
Yeah. Kentucky's the same.
It all comes down to the use of force.
So like here, you're not even allowed to go outside and ask them what they're doing in your car.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
it's crazy here.
And
That's what I mean. It's like.
And I get that, like, it sucks from the law perspective, but I would advocate, like, hey, if you have a Ring camera and you see people breaking into your car, like, dude, call the fucking cops. Let them deal with that problem. Like, it's not worth getting into it. Clint can probably attest to this. Like, it's not worth putting yourself in that situation because ultimately we're looking to avoid it. Like, why would I open my door and leave my safe space to go get involved with that situation when I can just let the fucking cops deal with it? But we have that stuff kind of like now where you talked about earlier, like if somebody started popping off rounds in the Walmart, that you have a duty to retreat. Whereas we have castle doctrine and stand your ground, where you don't have a duty to retreat. Now, and I agree with you 100%. Like the duty retreat law stuff, that's bullshit, man.
Yeah,
like,
Maryland actually also
100%. Because it's like, and there's some other podcasts that I've listened to that guys have talked about duty to retreat stuff. It's like literally you could get thrown in jail because you shot somebody because you're in your bedroom on the second floor and you had a window and you could have jumped out of that and broke your fucking ankles before you shot the guy. Like it is just so fucking absurd.
So the duty
it's like that guy. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the duty to retreat, generally from my understanding, is in a realistic basis. If you're on a second story and you have to jump off, a lot of times they're not expecting you to jump out of a window. To do anything, it has to be a reasonable access point of getting out. But I agree with you. The duty to retreat bullshit is ridiculous.
Yeah. And I don't know enough about the duty to retreat stuff because I don't live in a state that deals with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I more than likely will never teach in a state that has to do that, right?
Yeah.
I'll predominantly stay in the South. I'm looking at trying to host some, or not host, but teach some classes in Florida because I have family there, and I've had people talk to me like, "Hey, would you ever come to Florida?" So that's been something that's kind of on my mind for that. But yeah, I would. I don't have enough information about the duty to retreat stuff, but regardless of, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Well,
Yeah.
that's like that guy Daniel Penny, the Marine who did
Oh, they
sleep the
choked out
hole
the
on the
dude on
guy
the
in the
subway.
train. Yeah,
Yeah, like that's insane.
they're
That's
hanging him out to
insane.
dry in New York for saving people on a train. And well, I did just see though that I think it was they had like a manslaughter 2 or something that they just dismissed that. But now I think that there's other things they're going after him for. I'm like, it's crazy to me.
Yeah. Clint, I know I think you're the only one on here that has to work tomorrow. So if you need to leave the conversation,
No,
please.
that's fine.
Yeah, I don't want you to.
I've got a
You have a real
rookie.
job,
I've got a
unlike
rookie
the rest
with me,
of us,
so
right?
I don't really have to do a whole lot of working. I just got to make sure he doesn't crash the
Isn't
car and get his paperwork.
Isn't that always
So
nice?
I have to ask, since we were talking about Kentucky and we're on here. So how far are you from Lexington?
Lexington, about 2.5 hours.
Okay, so it's a little bit of a drive.
Yeah,
But yeah.
I drive up. I mean, so Wilmore, Kentucky is just south of Lexington.
Okay.
So like when I say just south of Lexington, it's like a stone throw. So I
Okay.
drive up there once a month to shoot.
Cool. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
I got family in Lexington too. So
I was just curious. Yeah.
yeah, I'm 40. Like where I'm at, I'm in the southern border of Kentucky.
Okay.
So I'm like 45, 50 minutes from Nashville.
Gotcha. I will say to all of y'all, 2A Brotherhood guys, Walker, Clint, if y'all are ever in Texas, like Central Texas, like, dude, hit me up. We need it.
Yeah.
We should get together, right? We can either
Absolutely.
spend time at the
My
wing.
wife and I can't stand this fucking state. So we started looking in Tennessee, anywhere that's red enough to be away from here.
Yeah.
Tennessee's nice.
Yeah.
I will tell you the only reason it was so I was born and raised in Texas. My wife teaches; she's a professor at Texas A&M. So if it wasn't for Texas A&M, we would probably be in Florida, where she's
So
from.
you do have an
You have
affiliation with
affiliation with
Texas
A&M.
A&M.
So here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. She works for Texas A&M, but she's a Gator. She's a University of Florida
Oh,
Gator.
okay.
So she's like, and here's the funny thing, right? So Texas A&M is renowned for being like cult-ish because most people, they graduate from Texas A&M and they come back to work for Texas A&M. So they never leave the fucking state. Like they never leave the town, right? So that's like her biggest critique of Texas A&M. But yeah, no, she is a orange and blue Gator through and through. It's just like A&M is her job. So no, don't. Yeah, we are 100% not Aggies.
But you are affiliated.
Affiliated.
That's right.
Affiliated.
Technically, I'm affiliated. I have a couple of certifications through Texas A&M.
I actually have a certification through Texas A&M, so I
Really?
am affiliated as well. Yeah.
That's funny shit.
I have
I've done a couple of alert stuff.
Yeah, I have some diving certs and from Texas A&M for when I was doing diver training.
That's funny.
That's cool.
Yeah. So all the alerts, so alerts is the active shooter response stuff that a lot of places does. Well, so alerts is partnered with Texas A&M for TCOL, which is the Texas Law Enforcement Commission. Well, so I've got several alerts instructorships, so I've got that. So
have you ever been down to the Teeks Academy here for anything in relation to
I haven't been to the Teeks Academy. I've done the online stuff, and then they've come up here.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Yeah, I got a buddy that's he works for ExxonMobil, and he's on the fire brigade there. He's pretty much he's like a firefighter, but just paid for through ExxonMobil. And ExxonMobil sends all their guys down here to the Teaks Academy for all their stuff. So, yeah, I was just curious. I didn't know how that works in relation to different law enforcements in different states. So that's interesting to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Exxon has its own fire department?
Yeah. So for the refinery plants, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they,
So
I'm
I'm out of 322. I'm the pipe fitters union. My father worked at the Paulsboro refinery in New Jersey.
okay.
So we're pipe people, but yeah, I don't think I don't know if they ever had their own fire department like for the refinery itself. I think they just used the Paulsboro fire department if they ever needed it.
So down here on the Gulf Coast, a lot of the refineries have their own dedicated. They have their own dedicated fire brigade, and they send them through like EMS training, pretty much fire school. So they're on call for any incidents that they have on the plant. Now, does that mean that local emergency won't be dispatched? No, that still happens. But they're the first responders for that. So he's actually like a tower rappel instructor. So he can like teach people how to rappel from towers and all that stuff. Like
That's pretty cool.
He's got all kinds of cool shit. Yeah. So I'm trying to get him involved. He has his NRA basic. We did it at the same time. He's my co-host on our podcast, which is the shameless plug here, Citizen Defense Podcast, which is on the Citizen Defense YouTube channel. But yeah, with his shift works, it makes it hard. But I'd like to get him up to speed on training to where he could kind of like co-instruct with me at some point.
Hey,
That's
plug
cool.
your channel on your own channel, okay?
gotta plug it where I can, baby. Gotta plug it where I can.
I'm just playing, man. I'm just messing around.
So, but yeah, no, man. I will say it is 12:03 here. I know it's late for y'all.
103, yeah.
Yeah. I feel sorry for you. I hope y'all don't have to work tomorrow, Clint. I feel sorry for you,
All
buddy.
right. One last question. All right, we started on optics. I'd like to end on optics. RMR or RCRs?
RMR or RCR?
Yeah.
What are you going to be using it for?
Just general purpose, like all around. You know, if you had to pick one for everything, I'm talking Civil War, end of world, fucking practical daily shooting, LARPing, whatever. Just one for every general purpose.
I like them both.
I would say for me, it's like I would say when it comes to RMR, like I try to kind of look at it from a practicality standpoint, right? Like the RMR footprint is very, very prevalent amongst different firearms. So you're not going to have a hard time mounting an RMR optic to different firearms. Yeah, I'd say you can't go wrong with RMR just because it's been around.
Well, the RCR is a RMR footprint too. So
Oh, it is.
yeah.
Okay,
So-
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've heard the RCR is more durable though, but you get better auto brightness with the RMR.
If you're talking about a standard RMR, just a standard RMR Type 2, I'm going to go RCR 100%. Because
is the RCR closed emitter or which is it?
It's an enclosed emitter.
Okay.
Can we pause YouTube real quick?
Josh, are we able to pause YouTube?
There's more fun things about to show up on this Rumble feed. So yeah, I like enclosed emitters. I think that they stay cleaner longer. Like I just, you know,
you
can see them.
I think his computer crashed, so I'm gonna check and see if he's back on to pause YouTube.
Yeah, so
see.
The RMR. The RMR is just older technology. It's just it hasn't really advanced. Now, if you said RMR HD, it changes the game a little bit. But if it's just the standard RMR, I'm gonna say the RCR all day.
Yeah.
Because that is an option you can
Yeah.
do with these optics. You can throw them on a rifle. I think that's a really cool feature if you're throwing RMR HD on a rifle for a 45-degree offset. So if you're running an LPVO, you throw an RMR HD on a 45-degree offset. Well, now you've got essentially a Neotech essentially
Yeah.
now. So
All right. Yeah, I figured we started on optics and debating it, so I just wanted to get a little ending on debating on which one y'all thought it was better.
yeah,
So,
I'm gonna say the RCR overall when it comes to between just the standard RMR and RCR.
yeah.
Clint, I was going to ask just real quick, what are your thoughts on the LPVOs where you have like the 45-degree offset versus the mount on top of the scope?
I would say mount on top of the scope. You don't have to change your cheek weld any. Well,
Okay.
you don't have to change it as much. You're just looking over it. To be honest, I run an LPVO on my patrol rifle, and I run LPVOs on most of my personal ARs, other than one. So, like, I look at most weaponry as tools. So you're not going to drive a finishing nail with a sledgehammer, right? So you got to have the right tool for the job. So, I have a rifle that's built for CQT. I have a rifle that's built for DMR. I have a rifle that's built for whatever I'm going to do. And then I have a general purpose rifle.
Mhm.
The majority of my stuff has LPVOs on it, minus my CQT rifle.
What do you run on that? EOTech?
EOTech, yeah.
Yeah.
But those other rifles, I don't even run a dot on them. I don't run anything offset or above it. If you're doing your proper fundamentals with it and you're running one magnification, you essentially have a 1-powered reticle, and if the particular reticle I run, I'm running the Primary Arms PLX Nova reticle, which is a daylight bright dot. So at 1x, the brightness on it is daylight bright. So I can it runs just like a red dot, essentially.
Okay.
So I find breaking my cheek well to peep over or can't would take more time than for me to shoot through parallax.
Okay.
I'm going to get a little bit of parallax at 1x, right? So what you have to do is you just have to learn how to shoot through parallax, and all that does is just takes a little bit of additional training through reps. And I teach that in my carbine classes. I teach, if you run LPVO, I teach you how to shoot through parallax at those encounter distances at that 15, 10, 5, 7, 5, and in those structure distances. That's when you're really going to be shooting through parallaxes of those structure distances.
Well, I think that's a good point to wrap it up for tonight. Thank you all so much for being on.
Hey, I appreciate it.
Thank you all for
thanks for
keeping
having
it
me.
cordial, and respectful. I know these debates can get kind of heated, so we appreciate it being respectful and keeping it cordial.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. Love to have both
Guys,
you guys
check
back
out-
on sometimes. And
Yeah,
or all of you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me
for sure.
guys, give me a follow on Instagram. Shoot me a message. I'd love to stay in touch with you guys. My Instagram's you just look up American Patriot Defense or at a.p.dky.
Is it linked on your TikTok?
Yeah, it'll be linked on my TikTok. Yeah,
Because I think we all just started following each other. So I'll go on and find you on Instagram.
Yeah. My bio, my TikTok has all that, or if you follow me on Instagram, I've got a link tree that has all my social media, my stuff, all that stuff. So yeah,
Okay,
really
cool.
conversation.
Yeah.
Can you plug your Instagram and your TikTok one more time, please?
Yeah. So my Instagram is at a.p.dky, and
Okay.
since TikTok kind of just hates me, I don't really remember that one. So let me look it up. At
Okay, no problem.
apd.llc.
That's right. Middle of January, you won't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, it won't really matter. TikTok, they have me restricted. I can't pop up on anybody's For You page anymore. So
It's basically how Instagram and
and
YouTube
yeah.
are for us.
Yeah.
but I've got a YouTube channel too.
Walker.
But that's all on my link tree. So awesome.
Walker, thank you again for joining. If you want to plug your stuff again one more time.
Sure.
Feel free.
Yeah, sure. WalkerTactical.com for my website. If you have any questions, you want to ever email me, walkertacticalinstruction@gmail.com. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on all of them. Again, I think I'm in the same boat Clint is. I don't think I pop up on anybody's For You page anymore. I don't think I have for a long time. But yeah, I think I'm just at Walker Tactical.
Well, stuff
All
like
right,
that is
roger
what we're
that.
hoping to change here, hoping to get the 2A community bigger and get a little more freedom to where they're not suppressing our voices and everything, and allow us to be heard, and that's one of our main goals with social media now.
Thank God for Rumble, right?
Yeah.
Right. Remember, peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
And X is X has turned a new leaf.
Yeah, I
more
guess I need to
viewers
get
on
on X. I've
same.
prolonged it for long. So
yeah, we're verified.
Yes, follow on X. It's 2A_brotherhood.
Nice.
we'll do.
If you're interested. Yep. Thank you guys again. I'll just say, again, I can't say thank you enough for choosing us tonight to have this debate on our platform. So we're very grateful for that. come back as soon as possible, because I really enjoyed watching this, even though I was in the
I'll get in
background
touch with
doing
these guys and figure out what else we disagree about.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, we saw the TikTok clips and how the comments were getting heated, and so I'm
That's
just glad we got
that's
a
why
chance
we
to
did
do
this, just so you can get some views. We were just trying to help you guys.
Listen, I don't
Yeah,
get heated about I don't get heated about anything anymore. I've been around too long, and I've seen too much stuff to get heated about a little stuff like this. I just want to make sure people are educated on stuff. That's it.
So Walker had said something earlier about you not liking the term muscle memory.
Yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, what's that about?
Muscles don't have memory, man. Muscles don't have memory. They're just meat sacks. The only thing that's got memory is your brain. That's the only thing that holds memory.
That is true. I'm not gonna argue with you there. That is true.
Wait a minute. I think you might have just made a fact, because like
I mean,
when you really think about it, it's like you're right.
yeah. I guess when people say muscle memory, they're not actually talking about the muscles having memory. It's more just the fluid motion of getting back to it.
Yeah. It's called building good repetition.
Yeah.
It's called doing it right.
Muscle memory is a little bit easier to say, but you are correct on that. But no, he said that.
That's another T-shirt idea.
Yeah.
Muscles don't have memory.
Yeah, muscles don't have it, or it's not called muscle memory. It's called doing it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard him say that earlier, and I just wanted to ask what that was about. So I'm glad I got that answer. That's a good answer. That's actually very factual and true. So I like it. You don't know my body. You don't know what I can do.
That's right.
My muscles do have memory.
You don't. Yeah, his muscles identify as brains.
Awesome, guys. All right, I'm gonna get out here. I'm gonna hit the hay.
All right, sounds
All right,
good.
sounds good, man. Good luck at work.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
See you.
Yep.
All right. Hey, Walker, you really can't. You can't read the chat, right? That's what you said, or you had a
I
hard
don't
time
see
pulling it up.
anything on the chat. Nope.
Okay. Because I could have sworn like everybody had access to the Rumble chat on
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
know.
chat room here.
I'm
It should
looking
be
at
on the right hand side.
on right hand side of what though?
Do you see where it has the YouTube logo, the X logo, and the Rumble logo on the top right?
No.
And then it should say a total of people.
Oh, I think that was Dimitri, because he said you're using your phone for your camera,
I am using my phone.
or
Oh, okay,
oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I'm
All
not
right.
on
Oh,
the
yeah.
computer. This is my phone.
Well, you have a good camera for a phone.
It's a Samsung.
I thought that was
Yeah.
because I thought
Yeah,
it was
man, it's pretty great.
Yeah. Well,
But I appreciate you guys having me back on. Really.
Yeah,
Anytime.
man, anytime.
Right on.
It's always a pleasure having you on, and there's going to be a bunch of clips from tonight.
I'm sure.
So just watch out.
You kidding me? They're gonna be tying me up in a square somewhere. You'll see.
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot's going to happen. Open up for like.
You keep breaking up, Josh. Sorry, bud.
yeah. I think Josh is breaking
That
up.
Texas Wi-Fi.
Yeah. His camera needs some muscle memory.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, listen, I'm gonna head off.
All right.
Okay.
I'll catch you guys later. Thanks again for having me.
All right. Appreciate you.
See you guys.
See
Good
you.
night.
I think we should just end it because I don't think Josh is gonna be able to play the outro.
Let's give him a couple more minutes.
Yeah, that was a good little podcast there.
We're still live, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of good topics were discussed. What did you think about it?
Yeah, it was. I think it was cool seeing different people's points of views.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was a good thing to see
That was fun.
different people's points of views on the same topic.
All
You know
right.
what was great
You
about
wanna-
that? they were all respectful, and none of them got
Yeah.
upset or angry.
Exactly. Well, Josh, seems like you're having computer issues. You want to play the outro before you crash again?
Oh, I never crashed. The internet just kept dying on me. But thanks for watching, y'all. There will be more debates.
Will be.
And we will see you next week.
All right, Rob, you got anything for us?
We got
Yeah, any
Grimy
last
American on.
What was that?
Huh?
I think Dimitri just popped into
So,
to the chat.
yeah.
We got Grimy
Dude, I thought it
American
was so
on
funny
next
when-
week.
Oh,
Yeah, Grind the American on next week.
That's
Who is that?
right, Austin?
What's that?
That's your people, right?
No.
Oh. What was... We
What'd you
talk
say?
about it after we get off
Grind
here.
the American?
Grimy.
All right, yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, we'll talk about it. All right, catch y'all later.
All right, good
God
night.
bless.
Leave a message.
Thank y'all for tuning in.
Okay, bye.
Good night.
Once you get into that, you start getting into a situation, the slippery slope, where all of a sudden you're going to really violate the Second Amendment. I don't want to do anything to violate the Second Amendment. To me, the Second Amendment is very important. I love this country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Are we still live?
Yes.
What about now?
Don't you see the thing that says live in the...
What about now?
Yes, you're still gay.